it'll be a pretty exciting matchup, and also just considering that SoaR aiming and Elevate, neither of these teams are going to be happy with the split. They both want the clean cut 2-0 from the other. You want to start your summer split off on the right foot, and securing a 2-0 here would certainly be the way to do it.
And right now, SoaR off to a good start, banning out Chang'e and Odin. Susano across the way, can't knock Elevate for their ban either. I want to see what this last ban is. It will be the Kernanos. That's a very strong Hunter pick. Do you think Kernanos is the guy that it has to be the first pick overall right now?
I don't think he necessarily has to be the first pick overall. He's certainly a pick that you can't go wrong with first picking. That is a very big aspect of the Kern, and especially considering that both of these rosters have very strong Hunter players. You've got Zaxi for SoaR, you've got Checo for Elevate. Either of these guys could definitely display a strong Kern.
Zeus comes out on top. Consoles always really loved Zeus, and even PC these days, kind of like we've drifted away, but now Zeus is back. Why?
Zeus just has always had the AoE zoning and control that a team is looking for, especially for the early jungle engagements. We saw how well it played out for Delta Marine in game number 2 of last set, so I can imagine that Keeks is probably going to be looking for the same sort of circumstance here in game number 1 against Elevate.
Well, first half of the draft done here for SoaR. Zeus, Geb, and Bellona. Geb going to be stuck over there in that long lane as a support player, and Zeus in mid. Bellona likely to be solo, but she does have some flex. Osiris, Khepri, and Ullr. Now, we did see the jungle Osiris earlier, right? Do you think this is a jungle Osiris or back to solo?
I wouldn't anticipate Osiris to really be a standard jungle pick. I think that might have been something exclusive to Mifflin and his Godful selection and just what his team was looking for. They just wanted to take away the Bellona and Osiris overall. But I would prefer to see Osiris in that solo lane simply because it's very likely that the Bellona is going to be going into the solo lane. So it would be much easier of a matchup unless a Robin were to come through, for instance. But for the most part, I would really prefer that matchup.
Ullr and Hu Yi both on the side of Elevate, which tells us that one of those likely to be in the mid lane unless we see something really off the wall. But the Hunter playing the mid lane, not too really foreign to us here. Mercury and Medusa, though. I really like those two characters. Medusa just has been very powerful for a long time, and Mercury a little bit more spicy, and Elevate looking to one-up SoaR in that regard by picking the Anubis.
I kind of expect this to be jungle Anubis.
Yeah,
that's what I'm looking for and anticipating 100%. And I like Anubis. He has very strong clear early on. I think a lot of people underestimate him because of his lack of mobility, but if you can get Anubis online, the lifesteal potential that he's able to have is kind of insane.
Yeah, let's get right into the game. I'm really curious. I don't want to play the guessing game about Elevate's choices yet at all. Anubis will be in. Oh, not the jungle. He'll be in mid lane for Baronic. Dr. L will take that jungle Ullr. Real talk. I think the Anubis jungle might have been the better choice.
I would have 100% loved to see jungle Anubis, not even simply because of the fact that it's just jungle Anubis and that's awesome, but I do have to agree with you. I feel as though the pressure that you're able to maintain as a team overall is going to be much stronger in the long run if you take... Plus, Anubis isn't as susceptible in the jungle role as he is in mid lane. In mid lane, you know he's going to be sitting there the entire time. He can't really stray too far from his lane early on. And facing off against Kaden on the Mercury, very easy for him to try and find the wraparound.
So one of the downsides about having a Hunter just in general is their power curve, right? Hunters, oh wow, Girdle popped perhaps accidentally by the guys on SoaR Gaming there. And Elevate have the push, so they'll be able to go into the jungle. But a Hunter generally, due to their itemization choices, are very weak early on and then ramp really hard in the late game. Now, Ullr in the jungle will likely go into some cooldown reduction, so we might see that curve helped out a little bit, but the Anubis might have been more flatline.
A lot of supports have been starting out, at least from what I've seen in ranked in general, they've been starting out with the Girdle and using it on the level 1 lane clear if they feel as though their pressure isn't going to be as high as the enemy teams. And there we saw the pressure that Anubis can have. That damage was kind of insane, and already the beads are expended by Keeks.
And even with that strategy in mind, I mean, that, you know, the Girdle came out almost after the fact. It didn't really help out. They still got invaded, you know, so I understand where they were coming from, but it looked like they had a plan. They just weren't able to really execute it, unfortunately, for SoaR. Elevate have the pressure, but they don't have the gold lead. Despite Elevate taking away pretty much the entirety of SoaR's jungle, SoaR still sitting up on top by a handful of gold, but Zaxi, oh, nice dodge. If Zaxi gets hit by that axe, It might be toast.
He juked the dodge with the axe, and then he again, just that light little tap to the side on the sticks just gave him enough to get away from the one as well on the Uller.
It's actually always a good look here on the Hunter. Nice little ricochet to help Michael Checo pick up the Oracles for him and his team. That'll give vision on the Gold Furies, of course. A lot of group up here in the jungle, but as we look towards the later game, right? We know Zeus. Anubis, yeah, he's easy to kill, but if he gets off, who wins in a fight, Zeus or Anubis?
Anubis pops off, and depending on how Veronic chooses to build the Anubis, I think will be the telling tale for who finds the upper hand. Zeus has insane burst damage. Anubis has burst damage, but he also has insane amounts of lifesteal if you opt to go that route. And if Veronic, all he really needs is like a Bancroft or even like a Book of the Dead, and immediately just so much sustain.
Yeah, Bancroft, Book of the Dead. We used to see Pythags built once upon a time, although I think things have changed a little bit. But the idea is that just 1 or 2 items are enough that supplement with Sorrow, the passive coming out from Anubis, that it just winds up being a lot more than you anticipate. You go and you dive him because he's standing still, and as he's dealing damage, he's healing, his life bar's going up while you're trying to really hurt him. So that's something that Anubis has to look out for. Across the other way, a lot more burst damage. Michael Checo dropping the Suns.
Checo wanted to play aggro there against Zaxi. Zaxi only being level 4 at the time. I think that was a very aggressive but smart decision. Plus, you just are never really in a downside clearing the way that quickly as a Hu Yi. Now it just gives him the option to back, buy whatever he wants, refresh himself, and then come back to lane, no problem. But he knows that Zaxi is going to have to stay because he needs the farm to hit level 5, which he just did. But because of the fact that he's probably trying to get that little bit of extra gold for full boots on his back, it's still putting Checo in the lead.
So we've spoken a lot about the Anubis here because obviously I think he's the most interesting pick, but we mentioned that Anubis is kind of susceptible to ganks, but we haven't really paid much attention to the other side, specifically the jungle. Caden's the one that's going to be looking to eat off of Anubis, and honestly, what a great pick. Caden's the one that's going to get aggressive, actually, right into Kenshin. The stun of the Anubis is short. Caden finds an exit thanks to that ultimate being level 5 already. Now that situation, Caden didn't have the Anubis in his sights. But when we look towards the, it's only 4 minutes in, as we look towards a minute or 2 from now, do you think Caden is going to try and camp this Anubis?
It'd be difficult for him to try and camp the Anubis, considering that he just had to burn his ultimate to escape, dashing into 4 members of Elevate. But I think that if he looks for the Mercury ult from way downtown, he can potentially find it and help secure the kill combined with Keegsmate's burst.
I love what Elevate are doing here. I mentioned the first round of buffs in SoaR's jungle went the way of Elevate. The second round, Elevator here on the reset, but Caden's actually able to pick up Michael Checo. He's going to get his immunity out thanks to the beads, and Caden won't get the kill, but Caden does pick up the red buff for his mid lane, which is more important. Elevate understand that Caden on this Mercury is a character that can get out of control, so they really want to keep him stunted.
I'm actually really excited to see particularly how Medieval and Kenshin are going to play out this matchup, because both of these Guardians have so much peel potential for their team. You've got Medieval with the Geb shields that can save somebody from being completely destroyed by Anubis or the Hu Yi slow in a team scenario, but then you have Khepri. He just completely reses whoever Keegs and Caden would try to burst out potentially. So I think depending on how the team fights are panning out with these two members, whoever gets the worst peel is probably going to find the downside. Yeah,
it's interesting. A lot of times, Smite's an aggressive game. I mean, we have a lot of these warrior supports, or even if you're going Guardians, just like these Fafnirs. Fafnir is one of the one of the best Guardians right now. But it's interesting to see both of these backline style frontliners come out, which is very interesting. I prefer that. I think it's a lot of fun to watch a really strong Guardian really just protect his team in that regard.
You have so much aggression from the other 4 members on both sides that just tossing in one very peel-heavy Guardian or support-heavy Guardian, it's never a bad decision.
Especially, so Zeus and Anubis, oh, Michael Checo dashed all the way from down the lane, and that's what Mercury does. 6:20 on the clock, and SoaR takes the first blood above Elevate.
Absolutely beautiful ult there by Caden, just no hesitation whatsoever, knew that Checo's beads were down, and I love that decision making for him to immediately pan out to the duo lane. If the Hunter's beads are down, he's got to sit there and try to farm. In a 1v1 scenario, you can't necessarily see the Mercurial coming at you.
Yeah, that absolutely. I don't think that Michael Checo really saw that. Nothing he can do. That was that was a perfect Mercury gank. That's what the character does.
And Kaden, I'm sure he's more than happy to have that first blood gold in hand. It's going to help him pick up what I feel as though it'll be a stone cutting sword. That seems to be the standard second pick Mercury item. It's fairly expensive, being 2,600 gold early on. That's a lot to dish out, but it pays off heavily with the 10% movement speed and just the power spike in general.
Elevate looking for the early objective. They have a lot of damage coming their way, but it's going to be the other way. Kingsmate Medusa making it happen. Kenshin survives for the moment, and Kingsmate puts him down not once, but twice, only getting credit for the second one there. 2 kills for the mid lane Zeus to add on to the gank earlier. Makes it 3 for SoaR Gaming. Kaden, he's the one zoning here, Taco. Gold Fury going to go down, and that one belongs to SoaR. Big boost for them in the lead. 2K already.
Rough stuff already for Elevate. Just trying to sneak away that Gold Fury. They had the vision for it. It was a fairly safe call to make, but the response by SoaR just completely beautiful. I mean, the ultimate by Zaxi with the setup, and that's what you don't want to happen. You never want to be caught in that Medusa Petrify into the Zeus ultimate.
Yeah, he got a lot of them with the stun, too. Oh, that was dirty. Love that play from Zaxi, and Kingsmate just follows it perfectly, like you said. That's teamwork. I mean, you stun them, and I'll just obliterate them. Really nice stuff coming out from SoaR there. And not only do they take the team fight, but they take the Gold Fury, giving them the first real lead in this game. Now, from this lead, Mercury is liable to just go off. You know, you were talking about 2,600 gold being a lot, and I wanted to say, well, you know, one way to supplement that is by going for the objectives. Elevate went for the objective, but SoaR's the one coming home with a pocket full of pennies. So right there, already, nice little look for the Mercury, who I think is going to be the focal point in our game.
And plus, it also helps out Zaxi going that second item Transcendence. He's already able to finish it off. And it's almost at the 9-minute mark, but that is an excellent time period for a Hunter to be hitting this Transcendence, considering that he built the boots first. Yeah,
if you're not going to rush the Transcendence, if you're going to go boots first, you're kind of... It can be really slow sometimes. The Gold Fury is certainly going to help him out. And Kaden building into that stone cutting sword, like you said, not only providing the power that's on it, I think about 50, but also the movement speed. Going to also help out the Mercury there by way of his passive.
Yeah, playing into the passive pretty heavily, it's kind of insane how much damage, especially when you have it already charged up from just roaming around on the map. And as a jungler, that's what you're doing the entire time. You're just walking around, farming up that bar, and the higher up it is, and the more damage you're going to do. Yeah,
and that's really where Mercury's burst comes from. When we talk about characters, we really have, some characters have a really specific on or off spot. When does Mercury really become that threat that everybody's kind of afraid of?
I'd say right here, like right now, especially with the way that he was already able to secure one gank off onto Checo. You can see how far back Checo's trying to play it out. He's trying to let the wave push pretty high up, and he was anticipating it. Lovely beads by Checo.
Lovely beads by Checo. I like the initial way into lane from Kaden, but that special delivery just completely off the mark. He would have taken 1 or 2 tower shots for it, but I think that's a kill onto Checo if Kaden's able to grab the dash and grab. But unfortunately, just misses. Zaxi can't really make anything happen there.
They did have the concern, though, of the elevate rotation. Kenshin was lurking around the jungle, and he might have been able to get the ultimate off onto Checo, and that could have been a potential turnaround situation that I don't think that SoaR wanted to risk. I like the disengage there by Kaden.
So the jungle Uller, something a little bit different. What can you tell us about when the jungle Uller is supposed to come online? I mean, this is such an oddball pick. Is he going to come online much later like a traditional hunter, or do you think that he's going to do something early?
He's meant to snowball. Uller's one of the only hunters in the game, I think, that has pretty insane lane clear early on. Combining that with an Anubis, there's just no opportunity. Medieval, though, popping that girdle with this team, and that Portal Demon's all too easy for SoaR to secure.
Yeah, already gone here, about 2.5 in the lead is SoaR Gaming, just past our 10-minute mark. Fire Giant saying hello. He, of course, spawns at 10, so he'll be sticking around for some late-game action. Likely to see that one be attacked in about 5 minutes or so. I think we're going to look at another Gold Fury too before we actually see the big guy get knocked on.
Wow, Medieval actually stole that.
Yeah.
Medieval actually stole that as Gev. That's pretty insane. And Kenshin in a little bit of danger here now, forced to pop his ultimate already. And I know SoaR,
He's going for it. Kaden all the way down the lane, finds it with the major look. Wonderful play. Likely going to trade in his own life here, though. A lot of damage coming out of that mid lane Anubis, and Michael Checo puts down the jungler.
I thought he was going to live for a moment simply because of that speed buff, but then I saw his mana bar and knew nowhere for him to run. Still, excellent pickup by Kaden. Just letting Elevate know his accuracy is on point with these ultimates.
That's when a Mercury is at its scariest. I mean, yeah, Mercury's going to crit you in the face for your whole life bar, and that's what we'll deal with a little bit later, and we'll get excited about it. But when you can absolutely nail those long-range ultimates, that's when Mercury becomes really tough to deal with.
And Kenshin just was not anticipating that in the
Nobody
slightest. And I love it. And honestly, that's the difference between having a Mercury for a jungler and an Ullr. Ullr isn't looking for those last-minute second-hand secures. He's looking for that early-on burst damage, like I was mentioning earlier. He's got insane clear. You combine that with an Anubis, it's nutty, but it's only so much that he can get away with in comparison to the mobility factor.
Gold Fury 2 hard committed by the guys on SoaR, and it's successful. Baronic's ultimate does not do much, but this time they're going to look for Stormy Rays. Nice jump over the top, and the sickle misses. Big hit out of Delny, however, rotation is fruitful, and Delny able to take down the Stormy Rays. Gold Fury goes the way of the blue team, but they do lose their solo, and now Kaden might be in some trouble here, Taco. Half HP for the jungle.
Kind of a questionable decision there by Stormy Rays, trying to aggress into the almost entire roster of Elevate after his team secured the Gold Fury. That's one of those circumstances where you just want to disengage, because what could have potentially been just the team looking to push out and maybe secure a T1 in mid, for instance, and group up to look for another pick, they can't really afford to do that now that Stormy Rays has fallen.
Right. 13 here, almost 14 on the clock. Our game is young, but not early. 2,600 gold in the lead of SoaR Gaming, thanks to 2 Gold Furies and a couple of kills above their opposition. Elevate haven't looked terrible. I think it's honestly just that the jungle Ullr is not as dynamic as the jungle Mercury. He's just not able to make these surprise ganks, these large hits. When it comes down to it, I think the kit on paper sounds good for a jungle, right? He's got a leap, he's got a stun, he's got some burst, but the no ultimate for like that extra moment that you need kind of hurts the jungler.
Not to mention just the execution factor. I'd say it's much easier to make something happen with the Mercury ultimate than it is in comparison to the Ullr, who only has a single target stun, if that.
Also, I mean, he also built Transcendence second in the jungle. It's a very expensive item, plus it's going to require him to get the stacks online. I don't mind a Transcendence jungle. Well, the Oracles go to SoaR despite Elevate. I don't mind Transcendence jungle if it's third item on a high scaling character and you're doing well. Like that's saying, all right, I'm already ahead, I'm gonna get more ahead. But here, second item, it's a little rough for me.
For jungle, it's certainly a win more item that if you can afford it, great. That means that your team's doing awesome. But I don't think that's the case here for Elevate. They're not doing poorly by any means.
Sure.
I don't think that the lead that SoaR has acquired so far is significant enough for Elevate to be massively concerned. But it is kind of detrimental as a jungle Ullr to opt for the Transcendence. He's looking for the mana sustain, and that's probably the biggest reason why he opted to build into the Transcendence. It's just kind of unfortunate because it's a double-edged sword where you get the mana, but you don't necessarily get the power that you'd want. There
are some other items that grant you mana. I mean, I right to the mind. I mean, thinking about jungle items, Jotun's Wrath. I like Jotun's.
That is a possibility, but Ullr is so mana intensive. And speaking of intensive, Checo yet again just completely decimated by Zaxi and Kaden. There's just nothing he can do, and the worst part about it all, Hugi doesn't have a CC immunal or anything. If Checo's beads are down, he's toast.
Yeah, that's the key there, is the fact that he just doesn't have an option, and Checo didn't do anything wrong there. He was 2 steps in front of his tower, and let me tell you, if he was on his tower, Kaden still would have went for the kill. I mean, that is just too much control. Wonderful play by Kaden. The accuracy is what's making this just incredible.
The only thing that Checo could have possibly done there is try and preemptively pop his Aegis, but if you don't expect a Mercury ultimate to be coming at you, what can you do? The only other option I think that would really make the lane viable for Checo at this point is he needs to drop a ward deep down right in front of the tower line of the T1 dual lane tower.
Ooh, Elevate able to steal the Portal Demon away. SoaR Gaming started it and tossed a whole bunch at it. No ultimates used on it, however, unlike last time. So Elevate was able to snatch that one away. Stunned on the Stormy Rays. It looks like Elevate looking for the fight, but Downey stuck in the Zeus Storm. And he does not have the detonate available, so the solo lane will get away. Baronic in some trouble, relatively low. He'll have to find a way out of the team fight. And a lot of damage going both ways, but no deaths. Ultimately, Elevate does claim the life of the Portal Demon, so that brings them a little bit closer in this game. SoaR Gaming still up 5,000.
And that's a win for Elevate, not permitting SoaR Gaming to have that option available for the free back into lane and then the aggression. But it looks like SoaR Gaming aren't quite done yet, or Elevate aren't quite done yet, I should say. They're the ones looking to try and push down this T1.
Yeah, they're grouped up as 4 here in the mid lane. Grouped up as 5, excuse me. Now the entire team here. Mercury's getting a speed buff on the side of SoaR, but everyone else is in the mid lane. That's pretty typical.
Elevate, however, wrapping around to those Harpies, they've got to be aware that that Gold Fury is going to be spawning soon. Both sides are. I know that SoaR is definitely aware of it, and neither side really wants to get poked out.
I think that Gold Fury might be the make or break point of this game, the theoretical next Gold Fury, right? If SoaR Gaming pick up the next Gold Fury, they're up 7,000 to 8,000 gold plus this split push, and that's kind of a really bad sign. I don't think an enemy can dig their way out of that hole easily. Whereas if Elevate go ahead and take that, they cut the lead to about 3K. They can absolutely fight with that one. So this next Gold Fury, folks, is going to be one of the more important parts of this match.
Elevate needs to look for the aggression now, though. Caden's on the opposite side of the map. He's just completely split pushing away on the Mercury.
Oh, they have Medieval. They're going to get him. They stick him in the middle of the rain. Great play by Kingsmate to send Elevate in the other direction, and Zaxi comes through. Elevate split up. I thought they had the life of the Guardian, but he's able to wiggle his way out thanks to support from the mid lane.
But the T2 tower. There's Caden. He's got a full wave. He's Mercury. Mercury is very similar to Soul in that objectives kind of just die against him.
His attack speed stim is incredible. And you saw early on, after 4 points in the Made You Look, we saw Mercury just put points in that second ability, the stimulant. So watching this character just go at the tower is big deal. Elevate kind of wastes their time here by the Gold Fury and wind up losing 1,000 gold worth of towers.
And now Caden's just looking to try and help his team burn down this Gold Fury. The Girdle's been popped by Medieval. The team fight is good.
Chunked out. Elevate show up far too late. And SoaR Gaming elevate themselves to about almost 10 grand in the lead here. Just shy by about 1,000 or 700 or so. And that is a bad spot for Elevate to be in, Taco.
Keegs, Caden, and Zaxi just absolutely destroyed that Gold Fury. I mean, when you have the Girdle pop as well from Medieval, that's all you need to do. He just needed to pop his relic there, and that Gold Fury was toast.
When that Girdle was popped, Zaxi hit it with I think the stimmed basic attack from the Venom stuff, and I just saw that life bar get completely annihilated. Wow.
Look at Caden's build as well. He already has a Deathbringer online. That's pretty massive. He's got the Rage into the Deathbringer, so the crit percentage is already going to be there. When they started off the fight near the Portal Demon that nobody fell at, he crit Baronic for 415, and he didn't even have that item finished yet.
Yeah, when he was split pushing, he pretty much just had the Rage. Here's what's scary about Mercury. When we see Xbalanque, he can characters like Xbalanque get free power, so they don't always have to build extra power. They can build other items, right? Okay. And there are other characters similar to that, like with attack speed, steroids, etc. Well, Mercury gets extra power from movement speed. He also gets extra power from his passive, making his first hit really, really strong, right? And he gets attack speed from his stim, from his second ability, his steroid. So there's no real reason for him to build real strong attack speed. So he can just build crit and still murder you without the additional items.
And most people looking at the player damage charts right now might think that 4.8k is not that significant. But the thing is that 4.8k has been purely onto single target damage.
2 life bars.
That's literally just been Checo, pretty much.
Yeah, it's basically 2 life bars and the Made You Look poke from the first couple of waves in the mid lane. That's all of the damage. It's Michael Checo's 2 deaths and some oops, I hit you with the Made You Look. Don't forget, Caden did get the kill onto the Guardian there on the left side of the map, diving that tier 2 with the super long range ultimate in the jungle. Kenshin felt it as well. So the dual lane has absolutely been the focus for Caden here, and it's working out well. His team up, like I said, almost 10,000 gold here, and in our 21st minute, kills low. Only 7 on the entire scoreboard, 5 of them for SoaR, and 3 have included the jungle Kaden.
Checo able to split those oracles evenly with Zaxi, and now it's SoaR Gaming wrapping around, trying to get the wards in place for the offensive.
Right here, the offensive might come out on the right side. You see everybody shifting here to the what used to be the solo lane without a tower. That lane is certainly going to be more of a party. Delny here fighting 1v2 and rather successfully. Level 17 Osiris relatively tanky here in comparison to the rest of the team. Kaden looking for the dash, will cancel, goes for the short one instead. Drops the Suns, come out Michael Checo, and Stormy in some trouble trying to find the way out, and it's a successful disengage. SoaR figured out that they bit off more than they could chew.
Baronic and Checo's ultimates have already been expended, though. That's pretty heavy damage that you normally look to contest an objective with, and the objective's just entirely SoaR's. Portal Demon goes down, and now Kenshin will too. Yeah. There's no chance.
Yeah, Kaden, I mean, when it comes to Mercury, Mercury's like old. Mercury's like Freya once upon a time, like Kali, like, for our console fans, you remember Hell? When Hell came out on the console, not when she came out, but when she was a thing. We experienced this healer meta, and if Hell reached a certain point in the game, it was just over. That's what you're seeing with Mercury right here. It's at that point where anybody's going to get punched by the Mercury, and it's just kind of over for whoever tries to dance with Kaden.
And Kaden going into the start of a lifesteal item, which I would imagine to be Bloodforge, it would only add to the Mercury along with the passive, the combined movement speed, and Mercury passive that's already so much damage, the health shield, so important. Plus the sustain means he can try and punch through Delany's thorns. Yeah,
look at that damage. Kaden just getting Dr. L with the long range made you look, jumping over the top to get the stun onto Delny. It's a solo lane, and Kaden climbing the ranks of the damage. Look at that. He went from number 3 from the bottom, number 4 from the top, still trailing the Zeus. Okay, Zeus. But at the moment, 9,600 player damage for him. That will likely climb as his team is poised to fight in the mid and the right-hand side. However, Michael Checo split pushing on the left.
Another significant factor here, too, is that if Kenshin doesn't have his res available for Baronic just dies off cooldown.
Yeah, we established that early. You know, we didn't see Kaden really go for the ganks on the Anubis, but even in this late game, Anubis dies in 4 punches. You know, you get dashed on, you get hit by the punch before you land on the ground, made you look at a secondary punch, and that's pretending like our teams aren't going to be grouped up, piling damage into whoever gets hit in the made you look.
And Kaden knows his team is going to have no problems whatsoever securing that T2 in mid lane. Opts to just pick up his speed buff and just happily making his way.
Just walking. I mean, that's like
stacking that passive.
Yeah, 12K in the lead. Him and his team. He's completely demolished this Uller in quote-unquote lane in the jungle, right? 3 levels above him. He's beating him by over 1,000 gold to farm. There's incredible stuff coming out from the Kaden here on the Mercury pick. Now, this character, we see flashes of him every now and then. Is he meta? Is he not meta? Where is he?
Mercury is just one of those picks that he's not necessarily meta, but he's definitely viable pending the right composition. And I think that this is certainly the right composition for a Mercury. You have the frontline essential with the Bologna or the Geb, whoever decides to be the initiating factor there, as well as just the backline. You have the Geb. Geb shields are just so OP when it comes to Mercury, and combining that with the follow-up damage from Keegs and Zaxi, considering that those two didn't fall behind early on, it's just almost impossible for Elevate to escape the damage.
I also love the fact that of the team composition that he was picked into. Michael Checo, yes. You highlighted the lack of CC immunity on the Ho Yi. Baronic, despite the fact that he does have CC immunity on his ultimate, he's going nowhere. Literally, he has to stand still to use 2 of his abilities. So Baronic is going to be very, very susceptible to Mercury ganks, and Anubis notorious for being easily killed by assassins that can just sort of run you down because he doesn't have any movement abilities. So Baronic and Kaden, not exactly the relationship a mid lane wants to have, and that kind of put Baronic at a disadvantage. Although to be fair to Baronic, he hasn't even died yet, so he's played around this Mercury well. Unfortunately, his teammates have not. Push on the left-hand side coming out from SoaR.
He's been playing it so passively, and that's not what you want to be doing as an Anubis either.
That's true, actually. That's really true. And that ultimate out of the Medusa is certainly true. Big stun coming out from the guys on a SoaR. Zaxi still making the damage come. Left side Phoenix down. The Guardian's down. Zaxi just making it happen. Barati's Aegis gonna last long enough for him to make it into the fountain. But SoaR Gaming take out the left Phoenix and they'll move on to the mid.
These Phoenixes don't stand a chance, and I'm not sure that Elevate's Titan will be standing for much longer either. You got Stormy Rays just happily, he doesn't even have to really back off there. But
he wants the speed buff.
SoaR going to kind of feign for a backing. I think if they can find another pick and bait Elevate into another pick scenario, then they'll look for the end. Even with all the Titan creeps pushing into the Titan room, I still think that SoaR could potentially find the end.
Kaden needs to get somebody in the wrap. He comes through with the 3. There it is. That's exactly what I was going to say. He gets somebody in the wrap, a couple of basics out of Kingsmate, detonate, and the player's dead. Chaos Titan will suffer the same